All right, let's jump right in. Today we're going to talk about an idea that might just flip how you think about, well, thinking. We're going to explore why thinking isn't just something that happens between your ears, but an activity that involves your entire body. So, to get started, we've got to talk about the image of thinking. You know the one. It's the most famous picture in the world for what it means to be deep in thought, and we're about to look at it in a completely new way. And there he is, Rodin's The Thinker. You see this guy, and what do you imagine, right? Some genius wrestling with these huge cosmic questions. He's become the ultimate symbol of pure brain power, like his mind is just floating there, totally separate from the messy reality of having a body. But then you get this amazing quote from the author Anna Cianuka. She was looking at this very statue when she suddenly felt a pang of hunger. And in that one simple physical moment, her whole perspective shifted. She stopped seeing a disembodied mind and started seeing a body that gets hungry, a body that has toes. And that really brings us to the big question for today. What if this icon of pure thought has been misleading us all along? What if the brain is only part of the story? To even start to answer that, we have to tackle this huge cultural bias we all have. I mean, we put the brain on this pedestal, right? As if it's somehow separate from everything else that makes us us. And this illustrates it perfectly. A Brain and Body Institute. That sounds totally normal, right? We see things like that all the time. But a Liver and Body Institute, that just sounds weird. Why? Because we all know the liver is part of the body. We don't have to say it separately, but for some reason, we do with the brain. And that's the thing. There's no real scientific reason for this split. The brain isn't made of some, magical, non-physical stuff. It's an organ. It's made of cells, just like your heart or your lungs. It's just another part of the body, not some CEO sitting in a corner office directing traffic. To really get this, we have to go small. I mean, really small. We're going to zoom way in, past the organs, past the brain itself, all the way down to where each and every one of us got our start. The cellular level. It's one of those facts we all know from biology class, but don't really stop to think about, Every single one of us started as one cell. And, just as important, we grew inside another person's body. We didn't just pop into existence as a fully formed mind. We started as this physical, totally connected, and dependent being. And this journey really lays out the pecking order. First, you have the single cell. Then, those cells start working together, organizing themselves into an embryo. From there, the body's basic systems get set up. And only then, after all that physical groundwork is laid, does the thinking self, the mind as we know it, start to emerge. The body is the foundation. The mind is built on top of it. This piece by Rodin really captures that feeling, doesn't it? This idea of a self forming within the confines of another being. It's a great visual for how our entire existence begins as a shared, physical, and embodied experience. Okay, and here's where things get really wild. Scientists are now talking about something called basal cognition. It's this incredible idea that thinking, sensing things, remembering, learning, isn't just for brains. Even our individual cells or simple little organisms are constantly cognizing. They're solving incredibly complex problems just to stay alive. So, if our cells were already doing all this smart stuff way before we had a brain, who was running the show? Well, it turns out our bodies already had this incredibly sophisticated, ancient cognitive system doing all the work. Just think about it for a second. In those first few weeks in the womb, you don't have a single neuron. So what system was processing all the information to keep you alive? What was keeping track of what was you? The answer is your immune system. Yeah, really. We think of it as the body's security guard, right? Fighting off germs. But its most basic job is actually a cognitive one. It has to figure out what's me and what's not me. That is a massive act of self-identification happening constantly. This makes the immune system the body's original conductor, its original maestro. It was leading the whole orchestra long before the star soloist, the brain, even picked up its instrument. It was the system defining you as a physical self right from the very start. And its job is so much bigger than just fighting viruses. The immune system is constantly making these incredibly subtle distinctions. It regulates the nervous system, it influences our behavior, our metabolism, it acts like a constant fact-checker for our survival. It's always in this deep conversation with the brain. So, we've seen how our cognitive roots are buried deep in our cells and in our immune system.
But what does that mean for us as, whole people living our lives? Well, it all comes down to this really beautiful idea: we are never, ever truly alone. If thinking is happening at a cellular level, then we aren't just perceiving the world through our eyes and ears. We are perceiving it with every single cell in our body. And that makes our very first experience, growing inside another person, so much more profound. Our first sense of the world, our first perceptions, literally came through someone else's body. And the placenta is the perfect case study for this. It's not some passive wall, it's an active immunological organ. It's a place where two separate immune systems, the mother's and the baby's, are in a constant, delicate dance of negotiation. They're working together to create a safe space for life. It just proves that from the absolute get-go, life is a duet, not a solo show. Okay, so let's circle all the way back to where we began, back to that lonely guy on the rock. With all this new information, we're about to see him in a totally new light. So here's the final twist. That sculpture, it wasn't originally called The Thinker. Rodin actually intended for it to be the poet Dante from the Divine Comedy. And what was Dante thinking about? He wasn't just navel-gazing, lost in his own head. No, he was sitting at the gates of hell, looking at the space in between worlds. He was contemplating the connections between life and death, between people and their destinies. His thinking wasn't directed inward at himself, but outward, at the relationships that connect everything. So that leaves us with one final question. After all this, from our first moments as a single cell to the ancient intelligence of our immune system, which is it? Are you a brain that just happens to have a body attached? Or are you a body that thinks?